Not only did I read the vehicle laws of all 50 states to make my custom cyberpunk car road legal, including Hawaii and Alaska, but I also spent the last 2 months reading all of the federal vehicle regulations, all FIA rally regulations, and hill climb regulations. I will be very explicit about this. None of this is legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. This journey started with a conversation about visibility requirements in my Discord server, which is in the description. I was thinking that there must be some kind of regulation saying that the road must be visible a certain distance in front of the vehicle. Right? Since this is a completely custom car, all I really need are some lights, a seatbelt, brakes, and it's technically road legal. However, I don't want to be pulled over every time I pass a cop, so I want to make this as road legal as possible. All I had to do was visit a website that included everything that needed to be road legal and copy that. Oh wait, that doesn't exist. Actually, as far as I know, there is no one place saying what does and does not make a vehicle road legal. Instead, each US state has their own laws about what needs to be on a vehicle to make it legal. So I went through every state law and compiled them in a spreadsheet to figure out what was needed. While going through the laws, I selectively copied the ones that apply to this project. So if you want to use the spreadsheet in the description for your project, you should look over the laws for yourself to be safe. I noticed that most of the states are, say, about the same as each other, so they were peeking at their neighbors' work while they were doing their own. There were also the states that were much better than their peers, and then there were the states that started the assignment the day it was due. There was so much spread, in fact, that I made a tier list of how good the state laws are. Alaska. You are the first state on my list. You are decently organized, cover the average number of things that the other states cover, and are averagely detailed. Your laws could be more concise, descriptive, and cover a wider range of things, but this is a pretty average B tier. I'm not going to go through every state, by the way. We'd be here far too long. All right. Arizona. You got B tier. Pretty average, but there were a couple of interesting things that you said. You said if a vehicle is fully autonomous, it doesn't need a windshield, or any windows for that matter. What an interesting choice. However, I did find a typo in your stopping distance chart. All of the other states said that a vehicle has to stop in a certain distance starting from 20 miles per hour. However, Arizona, you say that a vehicle must stop within 30 feet from initial speed of 20 miles per second, which is about 4 times faster than the International Space Station as it orbits the Earth. If we assume a vehicle is actually going this fast, it will have about 9.3 times 10 to the power of 11 joules of energy, which, if released within the 30 feet of stopping distance that you require, equates to about 220 tons of TNT, which is about twice the size of this explosion. I will let you keep your B, Arizona, if you resubmit this before the next class. Next state of note is Florida. Florida, your laws are an absolute mess. Your laws about headlights and brakes are grouped in the same place as your laws about fishing from bridges. How am I supposed to find anything? No wonder no one follows the laws in your state. D tier. Then there is Iowa. Iowa, you are well organized, descriptive, concise, and cover a wide range of equipment that most other states do not cover. S tier. Good job. Keep it up. Now, to reiterate what a B tier looks like, we have a equipment section, and within that we have several specific sections for headlights, taillights, And then within each of those, we have smaller sections describing the law that is hopefully detailed and concise. What if, just humor me, what if instead we took out all of that nice organization and put it all in one layer to make it more difficult to find? Then we put all the equipment laws into one massive paragraph with no sections to make it as verbose as possible. If you believe that this is the ideal scenario, then your spirit animal is the state of Massachusetts. God bless America. This was the worst state I had the displeasure of reading laws for. If there was a tier below F, I would put you there, Massachusetts. But because you actually did cover a wide range of equipment, the lowest I can give you is F. New Hampshire, E tier. Your organization is subpar, and the things you covered were not very in-depth. Do better. However, you did do better than New Jersey's F tier. But that's like saying one kindergartner made a better drawing because they didn't eat the crayons in the process. Pennsylvania. You had the potential to do well, but dropped the ball. Up to this point, some other states have made some references to the Society of Automotive Engineers standards, which are considered the peak of automotive standards. Pennsylvania, your constant references would be understandable if they didn't have to be paid for. Just for the lighting of a vehicle, the cost is $2,000. Now, I understand that SAE is an independent organization and needs to make money somehow. However, states should not refer to these standards if the common person cannot access them. Pennsylvania, you may as well not even have written any regulations if we cannot see what you're referring to. Also, why do only you make extensive references to SAE standards when all the other states do not? Could it possibly be because the SAE headquarters are located within your state? Deplorable, Pennsylvania. For your crimes of making laws that the common person cannot access, I find you guilty of F tier. However, since you managed to cover a wide range of equipment, I shall be lenient, and I sentence you to E tier. This was all the states I had time for, but if you would like me to make a video on just ranking state laws, let me know in the comments. Class dismissed. After finally making it through all the states, I have united all state laws into one massive state law, which are hereby known as the United States laws, but are not the official laws of the United States. I took the most strict laws from each state, so a vehicle following these laws should be road legal in every state, but for legal reasons may or may not be. While reading, I noticed that a lot of states require glass windows. This is where I'm going to have to deviate from the state law, as I do not have a relatively easy way of manufacturing a glass window in the shape that I need. Instead, I am going to have to rely on restrictions for custom-built vehicles. Another thing I found is that I will likely need some extra lights that most vehicles do not have, as the US is very particular about its lighting regulations. Yes, I will need the normal headlights, taillights, and turn signals that all vehicles have, but I will also need clearance lights and identification lights. These lights are for vehicles that are greater than 80 inches in width. Identification lights are meant to indicate the extreme width and height of the vehicle. Some laws say that they need to be on top of the cab, but some trucks have them on the front grille. I think it would look much better if I were to put these on the front bumper and the spoiler of this vehicle. There are quite a number of other things that will impact the look of the vehicle and must be considered when designing. So if you are interested in those, join my Discord where I have posted about all of the necessities. Going back to what got me into this in the first place, visibility requirements. I sort of found what I was looking for. The A-pillar of a vehicle cannot be more than 4 inches wide. But there was still nothing about being able to see the road a certain distance in front of the vehicle. Plus, there was nothing about the requirements a headlight had to meet to be road legal. Sure, the states said that I need to have a headlight, but they did not specify what constituted as a road legal headlight. Since I may need to make my own headlights for this vehicle, I knew that my quest was not over. That meant it was time to move on to the federal regulations. The federal regulations gave me hope that I would find my visibility requirement. Going through the brakes section, they included required stopping distances above 20 miles per hour, which is better than all the other states, besides Arizona. The lighting section gave me more hope as it detailed how bright a given light had to be in a given direction and what color it was. And by color, I don't mean a qualitative white where you're using your ichrometer, but rather quantitative definitions in chromacity coordinates. As an engineer, this is exactly what I'm looking for. I believe that this is the next best thing to the SAE requirements. However, as I kept reading, the regulations went on with unnecessary detail for what I am trying to do. I began to procrastinate reading the regulations by watching how my dog Mouse reacts to me giving him ice.
You want some ice? You want some ice? You want some ice? Come get it.
When I finally finished the federal regulations, I had to ask myself, what exactly do I want this car to do? Well, since this car in Cyberpunk is a tribute to Ken Block, it only makes sense to make it a tribute to him in real life as well. Ken is an extremely renowned rally and drift driver. Also in the game, this car is taken off-road and driven in the city for daily driving. This vehicle should be capable of doing all of these. Now, this does not mean it won't do all of these flawlessly, but it should be able to do all of these better than the average vehicle, except for daily driving. I do want to reiterate that this will not be competing for the fastest time in any sort of race. This is still intended to be used mainly on the road, but capable of doing rally or other race. I just need to sacrifice some of the things that will make it nice to use as a regular road vehicle. After I figured out what I wanted, I was able to talk to a rally driver who watched one of my previous videos, and I got a lot of good input from him. I learned that rallies are held in stages, and there's often not much time to refuel between them. This makes it very impractical for an electric vehicle to compete. Because of this, and how the car is a V8 in the game, I have decided that I'm going to put a V8 into the car. For all of those who were begging for an ICE vehicle, rejoice. It won't only be an ICE vehicle though, it will be a hybrid. The specifics of how this is accomplished are still in the works, but the initial plan is to have the V8 power the back wheels and the electric motor power the front. I believe this should be a relatively simple way of doing things, but things are still in the works. To make this car a true tribute to Ken Block, what better way than to actually race it in a rally? I started reading the American Rally Association regulations, as this car will likely be staying in the US. The first thing that stands out from these regulations is that I need a roll cage built to FIA standards. This I expected, as the roll cage is one of the most important safety structures. If you are wondering why this is important, this is why.
Oh, that's way worse than last year.
Now, I would prefer that this not happen to the car, as it would destroy all the work that I put into it. However, if it does happen, I'd rather be able to walk away from the crash and fix it rather than dying. I want to take a moment to stress how important safety systems are in a car, as crashes are less so a matter of if and rather a matter of when. And when one happens, I want to continue to do this. So if some aesthetics on the car need to be sacrificed in the name of safety, it's going to be a no-brainer for me. Another thing that stuck out to me is that glass windshields are required. This is quite unfortunate as I don't have any way of making a custom glass windshield. The biggest blow to this project, however, is that a rally vehicle must be based on a production vehicle while using a production chassis and looking like the production vehicle. This means that this car will not be able to participate in official rally races, as far as I know. Since this car cannot participate in official races, I can take some liberties with some of the regulations to make it easier to manufacture, such as the glass windshield. However, I will still follow the safety regulations to the best of my ability. I believe the glass windshield is a safety regulation so that the passengers can smash through it in case of an emergency. To still adhere to the spirit of the rule, I may need to come up with some kind of quick release windshield mechanism. That will have to be figured out down the road. Finally, both rally and state laws say that all wheels must be covered by fenders so mud doesn't splash everywhere. That is understandable, but completely defeats the look of the front wheels. I can potentially build a removable fender that is put on for road use, but taken off for when I want to show the vehicle off. Moving on to the FIA regulations, the main thing to look at were the roll cage requirements. They did a good job of detailing the construction for non-engineers who don't know what kind of tube to use and how strong to make it. However, they didn't include any forces or G's that the roll cage should withstand, which is incredibly frustrating as I want to design my own. Of all the sources I looked through, none spoke of the forces that were imparted on the roll cage during a crash, which means I'm going to have to do some educated guessing. There are a number of regulations that say things mounted to the roll cage need to withstand a 25G acceleration. However, it is not clear if the roll cage should be able to withstand more, and if the roll cage should be allowed to bend in the event of a crash. The naive answer is to say that it should not yield. However, if it is allowed to yield or bend, but not totally fail, a lot of energy is absorbed in the process of bending the tubes, making the passenger experience less acceleration. Of course, this is only if the roll cage doesn't bend to the point where it starts to intersect the heads of the passengers. For this reason, I want to give some extra space around the helmets of the passengers. Perhaps instead of looking at how many G's the roll cage should withstand, another approach is to look at crash footage and determine the speed and rotation of vehicles when they crash, and perform a dynamic simulation that takes into account the mass of the vehicle, its speed, and how the stress and energy change as the roll cage deforms. If anyone has had any experience with designing a roll cage, I would greatly appreciate some feedback. Moving on from rally regulations, I also read hill climb regulations, specifically the ones for Pikes Peak, as Ken Block has also done that several times. While I won't be able to compete in a FIA hill climb, at the Pikes Peak hill climb, I may actually be able to compete. I don't see anything about the windshield needing to be glass or that the vehicle must be based on a normal production vehicle. There may be other races I could potentially compete in this car, but Pikes Peak looks to be one of them. So after reading through all of these visibility regulations, what did I find out? There are no visibility regulations. The regulation does not exist. So I'm like, aha man, I gotta dig deeper. There's no way that visibility regulations don't exist. I have boxes full of regulations. So I march my way down onto my Discord, and what did I find out? They simply don't exist. Unbelievable. So as a substitute, I can use the visibility from a normal production car of about the same size and shape. For those of you who may have been looking for something that compiles laws like this, I hope you find it useful. Now, it's time for me to get back to work, so I would like to thank you all for watching, I'll see you next time.